International Convention on Human Rights, Labor Rights, Environmental Protection, Climate Obligations, and Good Governance. And this privileged market access is conditional. Pakistan has benefited from this arrangement since January 2014. And over that period, the commercial benefits have been considerable. According to EU figures, Pakistan exports to the EU rose by over 108%, while total trade increased from 8.3 billion to 14.85 billion euro. The EU also states that more than 88% of Pakistani exports eligible for tariff reductions entered the EU at preferential rates in 2024. Therefore, this is not a marginal arrangement. It has delivered prosperity to Pakistan for more than a decade. That is why today's question is so important. Has this benefit been matched by genuine compliance with the obligations attached to it? That is also why the people speaking here are essential to the discussion. Dr. Naseem Balloch, chairman of the Balloch National Movement, is here because the situation in Balochistan has become one of the clearest tests of whether treaty obligations mean anything in practice. He speaks not only as a political representative, but from direct personal experience of the climate of repression surrounding Balloch activism. A motion tabled in the UK Parliament in February this year referred to the enforced disappearance of his father and two uncles, reportedly taken from their home in Hub Shauki by Pakistani security personnel without warrant, charge, or due process. And this collective punishment is not an isolated occurrence. UN experts warned last year of enforced disappearances, arbitrary detention, violence against peaceful protesters, and restrictions on expression and association in Balochistan. Mr. Zulfi Bukhari brings direct knowledge of Pakistan's political system and of the pressure now being placed on opposition figures and their associates. Mr. Qasim Khan is here because the discussion about rights, due process, and accountability is not theoretical. It concerns real cases, real detentions, and real questions about the rule of law. We are also joined by Mr. Nikolaos Vretos, member of the Hellenic Parliament, whose presence reflects broader European concern, and by Mr. Rafael Kaliviotis, geopolitical analyst who brings an international perspective. I took part in last year's UN event on this issue, and I believe the message from that remains valid today. At that time, I said the European Commission now stands at a crossroads. And my call is clear: suspend Pakistan's GSP Plus trade privileges until the country meets its commitments to human rights, minority protection, and genuine educational reform. The time to act is now. And I concluded that suspending GSP Plus is not about punishment for its own sake. It is a tool to create leverage for change. And I stand by those words. And I stand by them because the human rights situation is not improving. And the concern today is not merely that past commitments have not been fully met, but that in key areas, the situation is deteriorating. And yet, while the European Parliament has repeatedly raised concerns, the Commission has too often preferred continuity, dialogue, and administrative caution over clear enforcement. And that is a contradiction we must confront. Parliament has spoken, the evidence has accumulated, but the mechanism has operated as if renewal were the default. Still, I remain hopeful. I remain hopeful that the next version of GSP Plus will not be treated as an automatic rollover for Pakistan. And I remain hopeful that through the efforts of parliamentarians, lawyers, journalists, campaigners, and victims' representatives, the Commission will finally apply the principle on which GSP Plus was founded, that trade preferences must be earned and not pursued. If Pakistan is to continue benefiting from future GSP Plus arrangements, it should do so on merits alone, on evidence, on compliance, and on real implementation of the international obligations it has undertaken. That is what is at stake here today. Thank you.
Thank you to Ms. Barbara Bottet for those remarks. And now we move to our live panel. I would like all speakers to respect the time limit so that we can preserve time for questions and answers at the end of this discussion. So our next speaker is Mr. Nikolaos Bretos, member of the Hellenic Parliament. So Mr. Bretos, the floor is yours.
Honorable President, Honorable Moderator, distinguished speakers. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for this important initiative and for the invitation extended to me. My speech focuses on the systematic and the ongoing persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan, with particular emphasis on the Christian citizens of that country. In countries like Nigeria, Syria, or North Korea, the persecution reached extreme forms. However, the situation in Pakistan stands out. It demands our particular attention, especially because of the violence and impunity embedded in laws and policies that the government refused to reform. The primary tool of this repression is the blasphemy laws mainly contained in Articles 295B and 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code. A simple accusation is enough to incite angry mobs, lead to lynchings, or result in long-term imprisonment without a fair trial. More than 1,000 Christian and Hindu girls fall victim to abduction every year, are forced to change their religion and enter into marriage with Muslim men, according to Open Doors. In the period covered by the 2026 report alone, 24 murders of Christians, 12 attacks on churches or Christian buildings, and hundreds of cases of forced marriages and sexual violence to record. The Supreme Court of Islamabad ordered in July 2025 the establishment of a special committee to investigate the abuse of blasphemy laws, and yet 6 months later, the committee had not been formed. The government insists on refusing to abolish or even reform these laws. Pakistan has been the largest beneficiary of this program since 2014. Its exports to Europe have nearly doubled, especially in the textiles and clothing sector. However, reports by the European Commission, the monitoring mission of November-December 2025, and calls from organizations such as Human Rights Without Frontiers clearly demonstrate that Pakistan is not complying. Greece and European citizens are paying a heavy price for this deal. Pakistani textile exports without duties have created unfair competition for the Greek textile industry, especially in regions such as SHARE and Volos, where thousands of jobs are threatened. The European Union loses millions of euros in revenue every year. We fail to understand why Greek and European citizens should accept the economic concession becoming less competitive, unemployment, and declining incomes when Pakistan fails to meet its obligations. Furthermore, Greece faces growing flows of illegal migrants from Pakistan, although overall arrivals in Europe decreased in 2025. Pakistanis continue to be a significant percentage on many routes, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean. Pakistan released remittances from its citizens alone, over $26 billion in the first 8 months of the 2025-2026 fiscal years, with a notable increase from EU countries, including Greece. The GSP Plus is no longer effective. The European Commission has the legal authority to suspend the benefits in cases of seriousness propose the immediate of the program for Pakistan until full compliance is achieved. This process can be carried out through specific transparent steps. First, at the next EU-Pakistan Joint Commission, we should propose through Coreper user indicators of progress. For example, a reduction in false blasphemy accusation by at least 15% within 12 months. The complete abolition or radical reform of Article 295C, the release of 4 prisoners held without evidences contributed to mental health issues. Second, a joint EU-UN oversight committee should be established. With active Greek participation, this committee would publish annual public reports, conduct on-site visits, cooperate with the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, a directive link progress to the 2027 CSP Plus review. Third, special emphasis will be placed on the protection of Christians, guarantees against abduction, enforcement measures, compensation for victims of violence, and full implementation of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Intangible progress is not achieved, the suspension will be automatically extended. As a representative of the Hellenic Parliament, I am ready to take the lead in this direction. As I have already answered parliamentary question to the competent minister, I will make every effort to initiate a resolution in the Hellenic Parliament to work closely with the European Parliament and to launch a national awareness campaign. We are not seeking punishment, we are seeking justice, respect, and genuine reforms. Pakistan can only progress when it abolishes these practices and protects all its citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, religious freedom is not a luxury, it is the foundation of peace and stability. Let us act now, before persecution becomes the norm and the cost for Europe, economic, moral, and human, become irreversible. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Breakers. I now invite Mr. Zulfi Bakari, former cabinet minister in the government of Imran Khan. So, Mr. Bakari, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Zulfi Bakari. I'm a former minister in Imran Khan's cabinet. I'm here to raise a particular point, and that is the human rights abuse and violations on Imran Khan, his wife, and his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. In May 2023, Imran Khan was arrested, following another 13,000 people's arrest that were put in jail, lots of forced disappearances, and ultimately leading up to the election where our back, which is our political symbol from the beginning and the creation of our party, was stripped away from us, making it very difficult for people to recognize the symbol on election day. However, prior to election, there was an unbelievable amount of rigging, which has been reported by all independent observers across the world. Regardless, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf ended up becoming the largest political party in parliament, and after which the crackdown only got even stronger and harder and harsher. Imran Khan today has been in prison for over 2.5 years. He hasn't had any interaction with the outside world for maybe over a good 60 days. In between, he was only allowed to see his lawyer once, one of his lawyers once, for a very short period of time. His health is deteriorating with an issue with his right eye, where he had lost 85% of his vision. This systematic crackdown that took place on us happened through various means, from curbing and clipping off the wings of the judiciary by bringing in the 26th Amendment, which brought the judiciary under the executive, so not letting it be independent and having political appointees in it. At the same time, we saw the judicial system being eradicated. For the first time, we saw over 100 or maybe 104 people convicted in military courts, civilians being convicted in military courts, out of which one was Qasem Khan, Imran Khan's nephew, who still is in prison after his conviction. On November 26th, we saw a massacre take place in Pakistan, where thousands of people came out on the road to protest against what the clampdown on Imran Khan and his party. Over a dozen people got killed. Malik Idris, one of my supporters, was also shot dead. BBC reported it. They tried to cover it up, but thanks to international media, that got revealed. Even myself, at the moment, having a 10-year sentence, convicted recently a couple of weeks ago on a 10-year sentence for a crime of terrorism, for which, when it took place, I wasn't even in the country. So it kind of shows you what is happening. Honorable guest earlier mentioned Iman Mazari and her husband Hadi, who have been sentenced to 17 years for a social media post. This gives you an indication of where Pakistan is. Most of our top-tier leadership is either in hiding or in prison. We have a two-time foreign minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, extremely respectful human being, in prison. We have a 70-year-old former health minister who is in prison simply because she defeated the current prime minister's brother in the election, but overnight the result was overturned. We've got journalists that have been assassinated. We have journalists that are in exile, living in different countries for protection because they're not allowed to speak the truth. We have our top-tier journalists who have voluntarily, and some have been forced, to come off air because they don't want to talk about just the weather. They want to talk about the oppression that is taking place in Pakistan. This just brings me to the reason why we're here today. I have a contrary belief and opinion to everyone else that has spoken before me, and I'm sure many that will speak after me. Pakistan must remain with the status of the GSP Plus framework. In fact, more of it is better for the country. In particular, our women who work in the export sector. It's the only way where you'll keep any kind of check and balances when you're in the framework. Suspending the GSP Plus status for Pakistan is a disaster, not only for the 250 million people that work so hard and deserve it, but for the country overall, for any kind of checks and balances, as I have mentioned. The GSP Plus status means a lot to my people. I know it better than most, and I fully endorse it. But what I do say is that the checks and balances must take place, and there must be a better framework to make sure that Pakistan abides by the ICCPR and the Convention Against Torture and the core ILO conventions.
Mr. Bukhari, I think the time is after.
Sure.
And what we are calling, maybe I should clarify, there is a leverage the European Commission has over Pakistan. Wars don't help. This leverage is GSP Plus status. We are not asking to stop it. We are asking to suspend it for Pakistan. So maybe then government will become serious. So this is my remark to your remark.
Just so I can just complete. We had a working, I'll just come to your point. We had a working group opinion, a decision made by the working group, UN working group on arbitrary detention. Our request is fairly simple. The working group opinion came out maybe over 18 odd months ago, and we request that a stronger follow-up takes place, which it was a unanimous decision that Imran Khan is illegally in prison, along with the special rapporteur on torture, which announced that the conditions Imran Khan is residing in is unacceptable and illegal. Again, let it be a suspension, let it be taking it out of the framework of the GSP Plus. Affects too many lives. We, as Pakistan Tehreek Insaf, have always put our country first and always continue to put our country first at whatever cost it may be. We don't believe in any separatist movement. We believe in unified all provinces as one, as Pakistan, and we stand up and we stand with our state against anything that hurts the country or tries to disfigure Pakistan in any way or form. Thank you.
We can continue this discussion outside.
Sure.
So now the floor is to Qasem Khan. So Qasem Khan is the former Premier Minister.
Thank you. I sit before you today. I sit before you today. My father, Imran Khan, former Prime Minister of Pakistan, has been in detention for over 960 days. He sits in a small cell designed for solitary confinement, infested with insects and under constant surveillance. He has been held in these conditions for more than 2.5 years. Why? Because he dared to challenge the Pakistani military's stranglehold on political life. My brother and I have not seen our father since November of 2022. We visited him in Pakistan after he survived an assassination attempt. The last time I spoke to him was a brief phone call cut off prematurely. We go months without any contact. When we recently tried to travel to Pakistan to visit him, the government deliberately refused to process our visas. Denying a prisoner's children the right to see him is collective punishment. From the limited contact we had, I know my father is suffering, but he refuses to talk about his own conditions. He asks us, about our grandmother who passed away last year, about our lives. That is who he is. And so the details of what he endures comes not from him, but from independent observers and the United Nations itself. I want to be clear about something. My father's case is not an isolated incident. It is just the most visible example of a much wider pattern of repression in Pakistan since 2022. As Zulfi explained, thousands of political prisoners remain in detention. Civilians have been tried and convicted in military courts. Journalists have been silenced, abducted, or driven into exile. The February 2024 elections were rigged to prevent my father's party from taking over, and that was clear. What I want those present to understand is that my father's treatment is the military's test to see what they can get away with. Pakistan made binding commitments under the GSP Plus framework to uphold the international human rights conventions it ratified, including the International Convent on Civil and Political Rights and the Convention Against Torture. My father's arbitrary detention, his solitary confinement, the denial of medical care, the blocking of family visits, the trial of civilians in military courts, each of these violate those treaty obligations. My brother and I are not political people. We never wanted to come before bodies like this one. But my father's life demands that we take action. We cannot stand by as his health deteriorates and he is kept away from us. If the situation were reversed, we know he would not stop fighting until we were free. That is the very least we can do for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and now I invite Mr. Rafael Kaliviotis, geopolitical analyst, to deliver his speech. Please.
Thank you very much. Honorable President, honorable moderator, distinguished speakers, I stand before you burdened by the solemn mandate of the UN Charter to defend human dignity without exception. The systematic persecution of Christians in Pakistan is no regional anomaly. It is a fracture in our global peace, a contagion of intolerance that reverberates from South Asia to the borders of Greece, where I come from, and the heart of Europe.